Henry Morgan went from looting ships to looting an entire island. Oh, you thought you were gonna be the one to say that. Too late. Someone already beat you to it. Yes, you heard that right. A pirate became a governor. Pirates don't usually become governors. You know what I mean. They tend to stay pirates or get killed trying to be pirates. But sometimes things happen. Sometimes history happens. Sometimes things that should not happen do happen, and this is one of those times. But during Morgan's earlier raids, Jamaica was captured by the British and renamed, so the place wasn't exactly crawling with people. When Morgan got there, prisoners he would often use as bartering chips to trade for more treasure. After the previous defeats, Morgan knew that attacking the land forces wouldn't work, so he decided to try a different tactic. Well, that depends on whether you were one of the people whose ships he plundered or one of the people who got to split the plunder. If he raided your ship, he was a villain, no doubt about it. But if he raided a Spanish galleon, he was probably a hero. That's how people viewed him back in the day. He was even portrayed as a hero in a play called The Famous History of Captain Morgan. Here is what is said about him. Captain Morgan, renowned for his valor and victories, died in his bed in London, rich, beloved by his countrymen, and feared by his enemies. But if we look past the propaganda, what do we see? We see a brutal killer who tortured and murdered hundreds, if not thousands of people. He loved looting and pillaging. He kept slaves. He was violent and self-serving. I think he was a product of his time. Things were pretty dark back then. Slavery was justified and piracy was legal. The world has changed a lot since then, and our heroes used to be villains and sometimes still are. While the rest of his fleet attacked from the front, he and his men hid in the forest. And remember, check back next week for another awesome episode. See you then. Bye. Just outside of town and waited for the defenders to come out. And they did, chasing after the fleeing attackers. As soon as they were far enough away from the city, Morgan's hidden troops opened fire and caused absolute havoc among the ranks of the Spanish. He got the drop on them, killed hundreds, and chased the rest back into town. With the way now clear, he seized the city and took about 300,000 pounds in gold and silver, along with 3,000 slaves. This was enough to make him a wealthy man many times over. He lived the rest of his life in relative luxury and even wrote a book about his exploits. He also organized major attacks against other ports in the region. For example, he led an invasion of Venezuela, where he looted several towns and even set fire to the capital of Caracas. He also tried to invade Panama twice, but both times he failed. In the first attempt, he and his crew came ashore at night, snuck into the town and started to plunder it. But before they could get very far, the locals sounded the alarm and the streets became a huge battleground. Morgan and his men fought hard, but eventually had to retreat. Then in 1669, Morgan and 2,000 men attacked the city once again, but this time the defense was even more prepared. Not only were they ready for an attack, but they actually managed to set traps and kill many of Morgan's men. In retaliation, Morgan executed several prisoners and threatened the citizens with total annihilation, unless they handed over all of their valuables. When they complied, he left without causing any further damage. There were some Spaniards left, sure, but Morgan was instructed to convert them to Christianity or kick them out. And let me tell you, he took this very seriously. During his time as governor, Jamaica's population grew from a few hundred Spanish citizens to about 20,000 people, most of them African slaves, brought over to work on sugar plantations. He also built a mint, started a paper currency, and established several industries, including a shipyard capable of producing warships. So technically speaking, he was doing a good job as a governor, like really good. But he couldn't help himself from keeping up with his old habits and spent most of his time raiding and pillaging around the Caribbean. He was the scourge of the seas once again. Hey there, welcome to my channel. And today we're going to talk about the time a pirate became a governor. This is the story of Henry Morgan, the only pirate ever to become a governor. Before he was a governor, though, he was a privateer, an official pirate basically. He was given titles like Earl of Breadalbane and Admiral of the Spanish and Portuguese fleets. That is how you know this guy is serious. His mission was to harass the Spanish, attack their ships, plunder their cities, and generally make them feel bad for existing. This was during the reign of Oliver Cromwell and England's first period of democracy, after a long line of kings and queens. So they sent Morgan and his band of merry men out to do God's work, which mostly consisted of taking treasure from the bad guys and giving it to the good guys themselves. Morgan's crew had humble beginnings with just 2 ships. but quickly grew to have a fleet of more than 20 vessels by the end of the decade. The capture of Portobello in 1662 was probably his most successful raid. It was the biggest city in Panama at the time, and it was loaded with gold and silver bullion. The loot was so great that Londoners almost busted the Spanish ambassador's head open for joy. You can imagine then that when the spoils of war started showing up in London, everyone wanted to know who did it, and Morgan became quite famous, especially after he sent £20,000 in treasure to the Parliament building. That is equal to about £500,000 today. So yeah, that's why the politician in charge of the Navy, Samuel Pepys, made him a knight. After that, he got a lot of offers to keep the treasure he took and just pretend that he didn't take it, which is kind of just normal stuff. But he turned them all down because he was a stand-up guy, which is true. He also said no to an offer to become the governor of a Bahamas island. But then a few months later, guess who became the governor of Jamaica? Yeah, old mate Henry Morgan. He did it in 1664 and stayed in charge for 8 years. He was officially knighted in 1665, a full-fledged member of the upper class. It's worth noting that Jamaica was originally a Spanish colony called Santiago de la Vega. During his first year alone, he seized more than 250 merchant ships and made thousands of prisoners. His third and final attack on Panama would prove to be the most successful. So who was he? Was he a hero, a villain, or something in between? What do you think? Was Morgan a hero or a villain? Let me know in the comments below.